From roads in Berkeley County to epics in Columbia, I sit down one-on-one with State Representative Sylleste Davis for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Representative Sylleste Davis, it's so good to see you again.
It's good to see you again, too.
Oh, I appreciate it greatly. Well, let me go back in time to just June 2nd. You posted the following on your Facebook page. You said this quote, "Berkeley County GOP had a great breakfast this morning at the American Legion Post, 166 in Goose Creek, giving candidates for office an opportunity to speak. There were some great questions asked by the audience. We talked about honesty, integrity, and common sense conservative principles. I had the chance to address some issues I feel passionately about, such as government efficiency, education, and creating job-ready students who are prepared to meet the needs of the workforce, and engaging young voters. Hashtag Davis for South Carolina House." Let me go back to that. You talk about honesty, integrity, and common sense conservative principles. What is that one word you would describe Columbia right now?
Confusing, I would say. There's a lot of good ideas, a lot of good legislation I felt was introduced in the House. It did not pass out of the Senate, however. So I think there's some confusion about where we go next on some issues, because there are some things hanging in the balance.
Sure.
The nuclear issue is certainly hanging in the balance. Tax conformity is hanging in the balance right now. We still don't have a budget. We're going to be going back to Columbia towards the end of June to approve a budget, vote on the budget. So I would say, we of course have a governor's race.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know who our state leader will be. So yeah, I would think that's probably a good word of describing things right now.
And you also said this too, quote, "I had the chance to address some issues I feel passionately about, such as government efficiency, education, and creating job-ready students who are prepared to meet the needs of the workforce, and engaging young voters." What is the state of education right now in your mind?
We have issues, and I think one of those issues is that we have students that are graduating from high school and they're not what I like to call job ready. I think in the past, for the past 10 years or so, we've done a really good job in South Carolina focusing on making our students college ready, but not all students want to go to college. Not all students need to go to college. So I think we need to change our focus a little bit and focus on making our students job ready, because that's really the end goal, right? Even if they decide to go to college first.
Right.
We need to help them, choose appropriate majors and get them sort of in the right direction. But those students that are coming out of high school that don't want to go to college, they need jobs. And we have jobs, fortunately. In Berkeley County and South Carolina, we're growing economically. And we have jobs. So we just need to make sure those students are job ready. One really great way of doing that is through apprenticeships. Apprenticeships and having more tech schools or tech courses or certifications in the high school, so that when a student graduates, they have a certification, they can weld, they have a commercial driver's license, some of those other things that allows them to have a job right out of school. But Trident Tech has done a very, very good job of working with industry partners to develop an apprenticeship program so that students in high school have they can have a job in high school. They're learning a skill, they're making money, and they've got a job. They're in the workforce already.
And you talk about government efficiency. How efficient is our government right now in your mind?
I see some inefficiencies, and really those efficiencies are sort of a naturally occurring thing in my point of view. I think government naturally over time grows. And in the state of South Carolina, we are blessed with our Constitution that we have a balanced budget requirement.
Right.
But what that means is that as our revenue grows through economic growth, for example, so does our spending.
Right.
So our budget's balanced, but we're we've got more revenue and we have more spending as well. So I think we need to rethink that a little bit, not necessarily change that, because we still need a balanced budget.
Right.
And that's something great that's in our Constitution that requires us to do that. But I think what we need to do is talk about ways to reduce the size of government and just do a very thorough look at all of the governmental agencies and do perhaps every few years do a zero-based budget, which means basically they rebuild their budget from the ground up and re-justify all of their expenditures. I think that way you'll be able to find efficiencies, you'll be able to find cost savings, and what you do there is if you find cost savings, then you can either take those cost savings and spend them on something else that we need to be spending money on, or you find ways to cut, for example, cutting the personal income tax.
You talk about government agencies. Let me take you to, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know if it's the city of Charleston or Berkeley County, but let me take you to Daniel Island.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the I-526 westbound part of the bridge was really reopened yesterday, after, I believe, 2 weeks or so. And obviously, the South Carolina Department of Transportation got some flack, as well as some government officials. When you think of the Department of Transportation, what goes to your mind right now?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in Secretary Hall.
Okay.
I think she's doing a good job with what she has. I believe that the Department of Transportation should be under the governor,
Okay.
so that we have one person that's accountable, that so that when we have issues, we know who to go to. And Governor McMaster did do a good job of sort of taking matters under control. And ensuring that, for example, the other side of the bridge was opened up, or the other lane was opened up, so that we could have two-way traffic on that one bridge. Representative Nancy Mace did an excellent job of, really jumping in early on that problem and sending a letter to DOT requesting specific information. I'm not sure that she's gotten all of her information that she's requested yet, but I know that she will pursue it until she does. Just to make sure that there's nothing that needs to be changed in the future to make things better, to address problems earlier, and to ensure that we're spending money the way, in the right manner.
You talk about, obviously, money. You talk about, we talk about cars which have tires in Berkeley County. Let me stay in Berkeley County. You are very passionate about the issue that's going on with all of these tires. I'm leaving out a couple of information, but where are we with the situation right now in your mind?
Well, right now, the county is working with DHEC, and they just met, I think it was last week, with potential bidders to try to figure out how to get all the tires off-site and get them recycled appropriately.
Okay.
So DHEC and Berkeley County are working together with that. And so to me, when you're faced with a situation like that, that's part A. Part A of the problem is figuring out how do we clean up these tires and how do we clean up the site.
Okay.
Part B, and that's where I think I come in as a legislator, is to look at what happened and what do we need to do to change, what do we need to change in the law or in the regulations to not only expedite that process. This problem was discovered back in 2014 by DHEC. So the company was not operating under their permit all the way back in 2013. So it has taken us this long to try to address the situation. So I think that what we can do is possibly try to streamline that process so that when DHEC sees a problem, they can react more quickly. And then the other part of it is that there's a $1.6 million judgment against the company, which it doesn't look like they will pay.
Okay.
And there were some other incentives that were given to the company coming in. And then you add on to that the cost of the actual cleanup, which I think right now they're estimating to be $2 million or so, possibly more. So then, part B of that is how do we get our money back?
Okay.
I feel like the state has been duped. And so I think we need to figure out how we get our money back. And if we need to change legislation, change regulations, I'm willing to sponsor those bills and do whatever we need to do to get the ball rolling on that to make sure that this does not happen again.
And you talk about 2 weeks. Obviously, you are up for re-election coming soon.
Yes. very soon.
How would you describe you right now as a candidate and a state representative?
Well, busy. As a state representative, I'm busy, and as a candidate, I'm busy.
Okay.
But what I try to do is I try to segregate those roles. And so, I'm in the legislator role here and then the candidate role here. So, I've got a lot of balls in the air, but I like it like that. And, as long as I am the city representative, I will work as hard as I can for the people of Berkeley County.
And speaking of which, let me go to June 1st. You posted this on your Facebook page as well. You said this quote, "I'm honored to be endorsed by the South Carolina Citizens for Life, SCCL. I will always stand to protect and defend the lives of the unborn."
Yes.
Where are you emotionally with that?
Well, I'm proud to have that endorsement, certainly. I wish that the dismemberment bill that Representative Lynn Bennett
Right.
introduced and worked so hard to get through the House, I wish that had gotten through the Senate. I wish that we had been able to have that bill signed by the governor, because I think that that's a very important bill. So I know that Representative Bennett will be back on that next session, and she will be working hard to get that passed.
And let me go back to the Facebook page. You said this on May 25th. Quote, "What issues do you most care about?" Unquote. Tell me, what issues are you concerned about right now?
Well, obviously I'm concerned about roads, because that's what my constituents are concerned about.
Okay.
I get a lot of questions about roads. The roads are in disrepair, and that's been, 10 years in the making.
Okay.
And so now, especially after we had the cold weather and the snow, after that, the roads deteriorated even further. So that is an issue that's important to me right now. Of course, the nuclear issue is important to me. It's important to the constituents. Ethics is important to me. It's important to the constituents. So that's the way I like to sort of gauge what's important to me, is what I think is important to the people around me.
And obviously, we just talked about this off camera, but you actually have opposition this year. What's right and what's wrong about the way they are conveying your record in your mind?
Well, there's a lot of misinformation.
Okay.
And I like to call it a misrepresentation of the truth.
Okay.
Also known as lies every once in a while. So, yes, I think in some ways I've been misrepresented, and it's been alleged that I've told lies about things that I have not. And I take that very seriously.
Okay.
Because integrity is important to me, and I've worked really hard, to maintain and preserve my integrity, because it is important. So, I'm just going to continue to run a positive campaign, and look out for the people of Berkeley County and do what I think is best for those people. And so we'll see how that works in the end.
I know somewhere I was reading something about the gas tax and you. What is right about that in your mind?
What is right about
the gas tax?
Well, the flyer that came out basically said that I lied, that when I said that the money was going to be used to fix the roads, that I lied because the money's not being used to fix the roads. Look around, the roads aren't being fixed. Well, that's not true, and I didn't lie about that. I would have never lied about that. In fact, that was one thing that was very important to me in the bill. And the bill, by law, puts into place a trust. And the money that's collected from the gas tax is put into this trust. And there's transparency on that. You can go to the DOT website, you can go to the Comptroller General's website and look to see how much is being collected and how much is being dispersed. And so it's very clear in the law that money is to be spent specifically for the maintenance of roads and bridges. And I, along with a lot of my fellow legislators, will be looking at that to make sure that that's the way the money's spent.
And I saw this too. There's another discussion going on about this, but it's about the widening of Highway 176. What is the future of 176 in your mind?
Well, 176 has to be widened. There was a very, very large development that was built off 176, the Cane Bay development, and there's commercial growth all around there. There's going to be a new hospital that's built right down the road from Cane Bay. And while that's wonderful to have all that right there in that area, 176 needs to be widened. Excuse me. And 176 should have been widened well before now.
And
So it's in the works, but we're behind the 8 ball. And so it's going to take a while to get there.
And just to recap, for people who still don't know who Sylleste Davis is, what headline would you write about yourself?
Basically, I would say hardworking, conservative, common sense.
Okay.
It pretty much sums it up, I think, for me.
Okay. Well, Representative Sylleste Davis, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you, Quintin.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Anytime.